everyone. We are here today with my amazing guest speaker, Erin West. She is fabulous, and we're so excited to have her today with us to just sit down and hear from her. She is one of the people who I really, really love, and she really inspires many of us in the compliance world. And I hope that this conversation inspire you and empower you. So, Erin, thank you so much for your time. I know it's 6 a.m. in the morning, your time. I really appreciate your time for being here with us and sharing about yourself and your story and your success.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan of yours as well. I've watched you do amazing things, and you're an inspiration to me about how one woman with a good idea can make really amazing things happen. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Erin. Really appreciate it. So tell me, Erin, can you tell us more about yourself? Give our audience a little bit of context about what you do and what is your background?
Sure. I just retired. I was a county prosecutor for 26 and a half years. During that time, I did all kinds of different cases, but they were always really victim focused. I spent 9 years in sexual assault. Then I spent the next 8 years doing high tech crime, which I didn't realize how really deeply victims were going to get wrecked by high tech crime. And then the last three, I've been deep in pig butchering and transnational organized crime scams that are really wrecking people on both sides. It became clear to me that that work needed more focus than I could give it while I was trying to also be a local prosecutor. So I retired and just this year started my nonprofit, Operation Shamrock, and we are dedicated to educating about mobilizing against and disrupting transnational organized crime.
Fantastic. I love this journey and I love Operation Shamrock. But before we get to the Operation Shamrock, I really like to get to know about, you mentioned that you worked on different areas, like you have been a prosecutor, you started, from sexual assault, you worked on CSAM, SIM swapped cases, many of, like these cases, and you worked with a lot of victims. How were you able, to navigate through these cases, talk to the victims, and basically be a prosecutor at the same time?
I think helping victims has always been a passion of mine. One of my core values is fairness and justice, and so uh, having the opportunity to work one-on-one with victims and help them navigate the criminal justice system. I think that's a piece of it that doesn't always translate, that it's not obvious how little the regular people know about how to navigate the criminal justice system. So being able to, it's always been very important to me to set expectations about what can happen in the criminal justice system and how you might not always get the result that you want. And that I think is really helping translate well into what's happening with financial crime victims in the United States and Canada and in all parts of the world, is that unfortunately we find ourselves in a crisis where we're up against bad guys who are very difficult to catch and money that's difficult to claw back. So having the experience early in my career in helping victims understand the limitations of the criminal justice system has very much helped me in helping them understand the realities of where they find themselves now. And I think that they may not always want to hear or want to know those limitations, but I think it also then enables them to find closure and look for opportunities to heal from this terrible thing that has happened to them.
Got you. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot, to do to be with the victims, educate the victims, and you know, help them to understand that these are the crimes that happened, to everyone and not just them, and really sympathize with them throughout the process. I feel that this is one of the major things.
Yeah, it's a really good point you're making because I think it's easy to think of these scam crimes as something that are affecting just our older population. And what we're seeing, and in fact, on Friday, I spoke to a 25-year-old victim in New York City who thought he was joining an investment education group and lost his money. That these crimes affect people deeply, even if even if it's just a little bit of a little bit of money, it's all
Mm,
that victim had. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity to try to assist in some way in understanding the crime.
absolutely. You're doing such a fantastic job, and I'm sure that, we as community, we're so appreciative of what you do. And specifically since you started the Operation Shamrock, we are so glad that you took the initiative to do that. Tell us a little bit about Operation Shamrock and what inspired you, to start it.
This is a hopeful story. So frequently we talk about like the bad, but what I saw when my team at the task force that I worked with when I was a prosecutor was really adept at understanding how to investigate the blockchain.
Mhm.
And so one of my mottos is what if we could? And when this first victim came to us and said, I lost $300,000. I'm a 30-year-old software engineer. I really am in deep angst and stress. Can you help me? We did a what if we could. And what we could do is trace that cryptocurrency and find out where it went, and then create a blueprint where none had existed before for how we as American law enforcement recover that cryptocurrency and get it back to him. And so that was a great success story. But what we realized afterward is when people found of our success, people came from all over the United States, and we realized that other local law enforcement didn't have that same boost of education that we had. And so in 2023, we made it our mission to educate and inspire our peers nationwide. And we found that there were other pockets of people doing the same thing. And I brought them all together under the Crypto Coalition. And so the Crypto Coalition now numbers 2,100 local, state, federal, international practitioners of active law enforcement doing cryptocurrency investigations. And it's an amazing community. And after I built that community and realized, wow, this is what it feels like when you have a group of people marching in lockstep toward a common good and learning a new technology to do it and embracing it and supporting each other, I thought the next step has to be doing that against transnational crime as a whole. And to do that, it can't be just law enforcement. It's got to be social media and banking and victim services and diplomacy and NGOs and so that's the nature of Operation Shamrock. Operation Shamrock is a cross-industry information sharing operation where we collect data in real time that shows us where the gaps are in social media, law enforcement, banking, and then we educate those industries on how to do better. So Operation Shamrock is hopeful in that this is what can happen when you bring together people across industry who care about fixing this problem, and you get off panels and stop talking about it and start actually getting in the weeds and making change.
Absolutely. That's such a great initiative. I could tell you, Erin, that this really inspired us. In every conversation we talk about pig butchering, your name is mentioned. Operation Shamrock is mentioned. And we try to educate more people around ourselves, or even different areas or different jurisdictions about the Operation Shamrock, and try to figure out how we could assist you, as well as educate more people about the pig butchering. And then that initiative could have a ripple effect on other things and bring other people get the awareness of, what is big butchering and what actually they need to do to educate themselves. So I want to tell you from ourselves, thank you for creating this and inspiring so many people in the industry for bringing this operation, gathering all these amazing folks together. And I know it's not easy. And I know that you have went through a lot of hurdles, to get to that point. But know that we are all appreciative of you and what you have done.
Well, that's amazing. I'm glad to hear that it is having a positive effect because we were operating in silos. Law enforcement was only talking to law enforcement. And before the coalition, we were only talking to the people in our own jurisdiction who might not know enough about this. So
Yeah.
when you bring people together where each person sees this problem from a different perspective, you're able to get amazing things done. And a great example of it is just the talking about it and being accessible. A woman from a credit union reached out to me not long ago, and she said, "I have this elderly woman who is coming in, and she's telling me that she's making an investment in this great online platform, and I know that she's being pig butchered, and I don't know what to do." And she sent me the link to this platform. So I sent it to my college interns who are, of course, whip smart and know what to do. And they were able to dissect it, figure out there's another website that looks just like that. And here are the people named on this website. And to be able to then give it back to her where she was able to show that victim in real time, look, your website is the same as this website. This person on yours is purporting to be the CEO. Over here, he's purporting to be in marketing. And so that's how we work together. That's how we make change. And nobody's going to solve this alone. So let's match up people from different perspectives and do work to fix this problem. So I really appreciate the encouragement. I really appreciate you talking about it. This is how we make change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I also love that, the fact that you are combining the mission that you have with the passion that you have, and you are making such a big, huge change that it's going worldwide and it's not just only in US. You're having an impact all around the world. So um, keep on doing the great work that you're doing. I know it's not easy, but you have all of our support.
Ah, that means the world to me. That means the world to me.
Thank you. Um, Erin, I wanted to understand more. You are talking to so many, victims as well. And you just mentioned that, you just been spoken, to some other people who are also dealing with victims. Tell me about, how you're dealing with those heartbreaks. How are you dealing with giving them, bad news that, hey, you have been the victim of pig butchering. How are you dealing with those kind of things?
Goodness, it's hard. I would say so. One of the things that I always say too is lead with empathy. That these people, I am meeting these people in probably the worst time of their life. And they are devastated and they need kindness and understanding. And I think that that's a really interesting piece because it seems obvious, but it's not obvious because law enforcement, which I very much, my heart is in law enforcement, it's very easy to say to these people, we don't do that kind of work. You're not getting your money back. Or when they go to banking, and banking realizes this is a scam and is doing their best to help the victim, but maybe just their manner is doing more damage. Their manner of saying, this is a scam, we're not going to give you your money, is not the right way to go about it. And I think that's what I've been learning. I've been learning from these victims that I don't know what it's like to be a victim of this. So every Friday I do survivor stories where I meet with victims to understand what they went through. And the reason I do it is I'm looking for where are the gaps in social media, where are the gaps in law enforcement, and where are the gaps in banking where we could do better. And so they've educated me about, I can't hear you when you're telling me you're in a scam. Like, that's not going to help me. And also, they've educated me about the very almost brainwashing that they find themselves under. And so it's really helped me to understand that to get them to make a change, we have to be empathetic to the fact that they are brainwashed and they've been coached and that they've had very specific psychological tricks employed on them, that our enemy has been honing these skills over years unchecked. They know what works. And so with victims of this crime, we really need to understand that by the time law enforcement and banking gets to them, it's very difficult to get them out of that spell. And
Mm.
so, kindness, empathy, telling them what you know about it and what you've heard in a non-threatening way of, and especially this is relevant for family members who are trying to understand what to do about their family member, is, I've heard about scams like this, and to know the red flags so you can point them out. Did you meet on social media? Did they tell you to go to WhatsApp for the conversation? Did they talk to you about their high-end vacations they're taking? Did they tell you that their uncle could help with your investments? Knowing the red flags and is helpful to showing these victims that you're empathetic and that you understand how these things work and you'd like to help.
Mm.
Those are the takeaways I've learned from victims over over my time in this space.
Get you. I think being outside, it's easier to detect those, kind of red flags. But when you're inside it and you're getting involved in it, you could, turn, um, like you can have a closed eyes into the reality and not seeing that you are getting scammed.
I think that's exactly what happens, and I think it's a very natural human reaction,
Mhm.
is you are responding to it. I mean, when we talk specifically about pig butchering, we're talking about specifically you're being brought into a carefully crafted dream. They're selling you a dream, and it's easy to go along with that dream, and you're experiencing all these wonderful human emotions of having a personal connection, that you're not looking for red flags and they're not obvious to you at the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are talking in terms of about, pig butchering, and I know that there are many debates on not to use the pig butchering name. But tell us, what are your thoughts around that? Do you believe that, we still have to choose, the name pig butchering, or do you suggest, to use something else to address that? And what are your thoughts around it?
Yes, I do. I have thoughts about that, in that they chose that name. The bad guys chose that name. That's their name for it. We're not labeling people as pigs, but the reason why I have always used that term and will continue to use that term is it's very specific and it's vile. And when you
Mhm.
hear it, it causes a human reaction of pig butchering, but it causes a curiosity and an interest. And I've never heard of this. I don't know what this is. I want to learn more. Whereas when we call it something else like financial grooming or confidence scam or something like that, first of all, there's no agreement on what the alternative term should be.
Mhm.
So that's frustrating, in that it makes it more difficult to quantify what is happening because people are calling it all different things. Secondly, that term pig butchering is such that it makes media interested. And my job right now is to make sure everybody knows what this is. My job is to make sure that your kid's soccer coach and the woman who cuts my hair and my cousin and my neighbor all know what pig butchering is. And if I'm calling it financial grooming, it's likely that they are not going to listen to that broadcast about it or that snippet about it. if I call it something vile and different and off-putting, there's a much bigger possibility that they will listen to the 30-second clip about what it is. And that's my job. There's no one more empathetic toward the victim story than me. I would never do anything to purposely hurt victims. I couldn't be more empathetic to the absolute um, targeting and psychological terrorism that's being used against them. But the job is to make sure everybody knows about it. And so that's why I use it.
Absolutely. I can't agree more. It is something that, you get curious of what exactly this term is about. And then that curiosity can create, the lasting thought in the mind so that you would not forget what exactly it is. But yeah, you're right. Like the whole intention is more to give the awareness to everyone about um, the extent of the pain that it could cause someone.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I call it that.
Absolutely. So, you're speaking with a lot of victims. You have been in this industry to deal with a lot of victims. I wanted to see that, how do you, or what do you do to stay positive, and have your positive attitude and mindset? How are you, in another word, keep yourself sane, while and centered while you're dealing with a lot of, victims and all heartbreak stories. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, there are definitely things in my life that bring me joy that I always return to. Um, I love my garden. I spend a lot of time in my garden. I love to read. I spend time with my sons. That they bring me joy. But what I will tell you also is there is a lot of success in doing this work. And these survivor stories that we've started doing on Fridays, where we have a team of us that talk to survivors, even though we're not always able to help them, we hear them. And the positive response we get from just spending an hour with a victim and hearing their story and giving them the straight scoop on, okay, here's what's likely to happen, here's what isn't likely to happen, really is it's a major step forward in our treatment of victims. So there's success there. There's success in our crypto coalition all the time, watching these people work together and pass cases in between each other when do you know someone in Tallahassee? Do you know someone in Boise? There's success all the time. And it's watching that success and watching, you know, Susan, you and I have been in this for since the get-go, and watching the improvement and the more and more people understanding what this is, more and more people working together, more and more police departments coming adept at tracing cryptocurrency. There's a lot of joy to be found in the day-to-day improvement. And when you look over time, you think, oh my gosh, we've moved a long way. And so I try to focus on that because honestly, you know, in doing this work, we're pushing a boulder up a hill every day, and we're just hoping for incremental progress. But over 12 months, that boulder moves. And that's what we need to focus on, and we need to keep moving it. Because if we're not moving it, the bad guys are. The bad guys are pushing it our way. So we got to keep pushing it the other way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't agree more. Focusing on the success, focusing on, what is working and how you're making the shift. Imagine days before Operation Shamrock, like 3, 4 years before Operation Shamrock, how things were. And look at today, it shows a lot of, improvement, support, not only to the victim, to the education industry, and like all the other law enforcement who are getting involved into this. I really enjoy seeing that, like other law enforcement. I know that in Canada we had the Project Atlas that we started,
Yes,
which is fantastic. I'm so proud of, the team who are doing
me
this.
too.
And And yeah, this is really inspiring to know that, like this is not just a group, work. Everyone is getting involved, law enforcement, educational industries, and all the institutions as well, getting to know about it and getting involved into the work because we need to stop this. We need to find ways on stopping this. And having a group of people working with each other definitely would make an impact.
Yeah, I agree that you
Yeah.
sift through the people that care, and you end up with the superstars who are ready to do the work, and that's where we find ourselves. And so I am so proud of the team at Operation Shamrock, and the team you've built and the team that others who care about this industry are building, and we're in a much better place than we were last year. And that's to be enjoyed and applauded. And so
Absolutely.
thank you for giving me a minute to think on it.
Yes, absolutely. No, we're proud of, everything that everyone who is stepping into this and, doing even a single thing, to stop these kind of crimes. And I have been in many of your calls in the Operation Shamrock, and I love the leadership that you take on, talking, to different, people in the industry, gathering them all. Tell us more about your leadership, skills that you use. I know there is a lot of women, including myself, look up to you so much, and we love to learn about your leadership skills that you use and how can we be better women leaders in this space.
Well, that's so flattering. That's so nice to hear. I likewise look up to you. I think you're amazing. And I look to other women who um, are dissatisfied with the status quo and 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 know that they could do better. And I think I am frequently the only woman in the room. And is that was getting old for me. And it's so important to me to see faces like mine in the room. And I was so excited when our task force got a new leader a few years ago, and it was Lieutenant Tanea Rose. And so it was inspiring to see another woman taking the lead in what is traditionally a male dominated industry. And you look at people like you look at people like Amanda Wick, you look at others who are out there every day just pushing forward and owning our place. And there's a since I left the DA's office, there's another female prosecutor in the state of California, and I was telling her, I need her to step up and be this. And she said, well, to replace where I was. And she was like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for that. And I was like, but it's already you. Like it's already you. So stand up and say that it's you, and then just start the work. Because I think so frequently we are paralyzed by the idea of asserting our role. And sometimes you have to be scared and do it anyway. And
Mhm.
that's how we move forward. Um, and when I first started talking about cryptocurrency and the problems in in the disjointed response, who am I to talk about this? I'm a local prosecutor, but it's one of those things where, if not me, then who? And why not me? Why not me? I'm organized and smart and understand the problem and have suggestions. And so I would encourage more women to, even though that feels really scary, to put their hand up and say, no, I got this. I know how to do this. Um, that's that's the way forward, because so frequently we see men insisting on dominating things, when they're not prepared, and we know they're not prepared, and we culturally don't do that. Um, and we lead in a different way. We lead in a, it feels to me, a more collaborative way, a more with greater concern about the people we're leading. And I think that matters. It matters how you treat those you are working with, and inspiring and empowering them. I think that women do really well at that. And we need to embrace that we do bring different skills, and we need to step into those roles.
Absolutely. I can't can't agree more, and I can resonate with that quite a lot. I have been also, a lot of cases have been that I was the only female in the room, specifically boardrooms, when I was a compliance officer myself, and it was terrifying at the beginning, um, to be asked to be in those kind of, situations. And now, like me, many years after, I see a lot of women who are in my community, and they don't want to even apply for the roles that I believe from the outside they are really capable of doing, and they are hesitant to apply because they feel that they are not ready for it, or they're not suitable, or out of the 10 requirements, maybe they don't have two of them. And I'm like, no, go for it. You should be proud of yourself. You should apply for these jobs and show everyone, like who you are, what are your capabilities. And it's not comfortable to be uncomfortable. So try to be in those situations, try to challenge yourself. And if you don't challenge yourself, you will not, you cannot move forward. We cannot inspire more women as well. So if you do this, you imagine that what kind of change you are going to create later on.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. We have to bravely do things that we might not feel we're ready for, but we get there as we're doing it.
Absolutely. What are your advice for inspired young professionals who are starting their career and want to fight pig butchering? What are your advice to them?
My advice to them is to find their peers, whatever in whatever industry they are in, is to find their peers who share their passion, and learn how to collaborate to do this better. Pig butchering and transnational organized crime cannot be combated alone. And that's really the core value of Operation Shamrock, is that we need everybody in the room. And so I would encourage people to go to Operation Shamrock and opt in for the newsletter, or opt in and tell us what your skills are, so we can find a place for you where you can use your skills. And if it's not Operation Shamrock, find a place in your own organization where people really do understand the volume, scale, and threat of what is happening, and start being a pest about how bad this situation is and how we have to react. That there is a world shift. There is a shift in the world's financial future that depends on us taking notice and doing something to stop the bleeding.
Hmm. Absolutely. That's such a fantastic idea. Tell us one inspired action that, they can do, women in this space that they can do to empower themselves and to be able, to stand up. What is your one advice to them?
This may be unpopular, but I will tell you, I am a big believer in the power of social media.
Hmm.
And I am a big believer that people who have things to say should be saying them, especially in the world that we find ourselves right now. There are a lot of people who we need their voices. And so a way to step forward is to begin your own advocacy program for whatever it is, just from your own pulpit, from your own. If you are on Facebook, use Facebook. If you're on Instagram, use that. If you want to be on TikTok, fantastic. But start talking about your knowledge, because everybody comes at this from such a unique knowledge point. And if you are a millennial and you are watching friends make investments in things that they believe are real, start talking about that. And and at least I think that the more you start talking and the more you see that people value what you have to say, the more that gives you the confidence to keep talking and recognize that what you're saying has value and that it needs to be heard. And a story that happened recently is, um, Stephen Sargent, and Stephen Sargent will inspire people to post and to say things. And this woman started posting, and she's like, I haven't posted in like 2 years, but I'm inspired by what Stephen Sargent is saying, and I'm going to do it. And she's met with positive response. Like, we need to hear all the voices, and especially with women, we need to hear the women's voices about how this is affecting them, their family. There are so many people silently sitting and suffering right now with this problem or other problems, and we're stronger together. So let
Absolutely.
us find each other.
Absolutely. I love that. And I really encourage a lot of people who I speak with, even, like there are newcomers, to Canada, they are very intimate and they don't want to, like share, their stories, their journey. But oftentimes I tell them about, my journey as a newcomer to Canada, how I navigate through it, and to inspire them to share, like if I could do it, they can do it too. And I'm sure that, there are a million of things that, we can share with each other to learn from one another. And that is really important. I love what you shared, and I'm sure that, I hope that whoever listens to this, they get it also inspired and can start writing and sharing their knowledge, onto social media. LinkedIn is very powerful, and I'm sure that, like they can raise a lot of people and awareness, and connections, throughout that.
Agree. I love LinkedIn, and
Yeah.
I feel like we've gotten to a place where I know a lot of people and I know what they're going to say. And that's why I always love when there's a newcomer who has a different point of view. And I think, oh, I haven't heard from this person before. So,
Mhm.
you're very welcome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's wonderful. Tell us how we can support you on Operation Shamrock and how the listeners can participate and learn more in terms of how to support you and your team.
Thank you so much for asking. So, while I was at the district attorney's office, I didn't have the opportunity to have a website. Now that I am retired, I have a website. And at the moment, the best way to get involved is to go to that website and opt in for the newsletters, and we'll keep you up to date. I also have three teams, three meeting groups that happen once a month. And there's the law enforcement meeting group, there's the banking financial institutions meeting group, and there's a victims meeting group. And what we do is we take the very information we share from those survivor stories, we anonymize it, and we provide it to the branches that could use it. And so I think there's a great opportunity to get in and to learn. And then there's the opportunity that we're creating to share. We have a deck that we would love for you to use in your community. We'll do a train the trainer and teach you how to get it out there. And so that's another way to support us. But the best way to support us is to keep talking about it. That's our goal. Our goal is everybody in the world needs to know what a pig butchering scam is and what a scam is that's coming out of these compounds, and talk about it. And that's our best way to combat this, is awareness.
Fantastic. Love that. Thank you so much, Erin. It was lovely speaking with you. We're gonna share the website of Operation Shamrock into the comments below, and I'm sure that, many of the people who are listening to and have been in the community would love to support you and be a part of the Operation Shamrock. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Susan.
Absolutely lovely having you. Thank you.